Hey there, my friends. Happy Tuesday. It's a super exciting Tuesday here at By the Shore Stamping because we have the brand new mini catalog from Stampin' Up that's now available as of today. My name is Jen Pittabach, and I'm so excited you're joining me today for another edition of Teach Me Tuesday. Today, I am actually kind of all out of fresh ideas for designing, but I absolutely loved one of the cards in the holiday catalog, so I'm going to recreate that for you pretty much from start to finish. So I'm actually even going to do some of the basics that I don't always show you, like putting together a stamp and all that kind of stuff. So you can fast forward through that if you don't need to see it, but it's always a good reminder, right? And so I figured with a new catalog and the holiday crafting season, I see a lot of brand new stampers coming into the realm just to do Christmas cards or holiday crafting. So I thought I'd do some of the basics today too. But as you can see, this catalog is gorgeous. I'm so excited. There's so many fun things. I couldn't bring myself to do a holiday card today, so I'm gonna do some of the fall themed stuff if I can find it. Here it is. So this is what I'm focusing on today. So it's called Harvest Meadow. This is the card I'm going to try and recreate for you. And then this is what is included in the suite if you do the whole bundle, which we will be using most of it. We won't be using the ribbon or the little matte dots, but we will be using the cork and the embossing folder and the stamp set. And actually we won't be using the paper today either, but I can show that to you just so you'll see everything. And then we're going to be doing some watercolor wash and some distressing, so it should be a really fun card. So let's go ahead and get started. I didn't do much of the work because, like I said, I wanted to show you from beginning to end what this was like, but let me first show you what is included in the suite in real life. So this is the Nature's Harvest dies, which there's actually 2 sets, so you can see it does die cut some of the images here, and it has a couple of labels for your sentiments. This is like a twiggy image, which is not in the stamp set, but will be really pretty. And then these are really gorgeous, and this is what we're going to use today. So that's the die. So that's a bundle. You can buy just the bundle if you want to. Also in this suite, we have the time-worn embossing folder. We're going to use this today so you'll see it in real life, but it's just kind of text overdone on some like vintage looking paper basically. Also in the suite is this really gorgeous like vintage crochet type of ribbon. So that's really fun, and we can color this different colors. So maybe in a future video I will do that, because there is, if you look over here, you can see on this card, they colored that twine Cajun Craze, which is awesome, or Calypso Coral maybe. And you can do that using a multitude of ways. The messy way is to actually put water, take water and some droplets of refill, and then you can drop it into that, and that will change the color, but that's going to cause a lot of mess. The easiest way usually is your Stampin' Blends, so we'll have to do that in another episode. This one is the brushed metallic self-adhesive backed dots. These are really cool too. We won't be using that today either, but we will be using the 12 by 12 cork paper. So that is really fun. It's thin. It almost has like a suede kind of feel to it, but it's really fun. And then the last part of this suite is the paper. So let me just quickly show you that. We're not really using it today, but you can see all the pretty papers here. Let me just flip. So you get 12 sheets, 2 each of 6 designs. So you can see that's the front, and then this would be the back. So we'll just flip through those really quick. So this is kind of fall, but not a super, it's not one of those ones that like is really over the top fall. I think it has a little bit of variety, and you could use for a variety of things. This is the other half of this one over here. So you can see those are the papers. Really pretty. Bright bolds, but still fall-ish, so I love it. I think it would be great for a variety of occasions. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our card. So first up this is a cling mount stamp, so it has the cling labels and the stamps separately. So we have to do a little bit of assembly. So first you will pop out all of the stamps from your die cut rubber. So I'm just gonna pull those all out like so. And then we're gonna take our labels, and on one of the sides here, yep, this side, you can see there's little slits in the labels. So you'll just peel that off, okay? And you only have to do this once. So once you've assembled your stamps, you don't have to worry about this ever again. So I'm gonna pull that off. We'll peel the backing off the stamp itself. In our old stamps, I used to actually pull the backing off and just use this to stamp with without putting the label on, because they weren't sticky and they used to fall off the blocks and it would drive me absolutely crazy. But now that we have the new cling stamp mount stamps, they cling to your blocks beautifully and you don't need to do that. So now I'm just going to go ahead and line up this stamp right on top of that image, push down a little bit, and then when you pull it off, your image is now there, and it's a super sticky image, so it's really awesome. And I'm just going to go ahead and stick that right inside the case of my stamp set. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for the rest of this. So you pull off the backing, you find the coordinating stamp, you line it up, okay, and then little press, and we'll put it into our stamp case. Okay, and we'll do the next one. Sometimes the little ones can get a little bit tricky, but this one doesn't have any like that, so you should be good. And I'm gonna go ahead and line that up, a little push, and we're good to go. Okay, and then we'll do some greetings. This is the nice long one, so I'm gonna pull that off. And usually, like, if you don't have the right sentiment, it won't line up exactly, and these labels line up exactly with the stamp. So if it doesn't match exactly, then you probably don't have the right greeting, or the greeting might be upside down. That's something I've done too, where I've tried to put it on and I couldn't get it to fit, but I knew it was the right word, but it's because I was trying to, so say I was trying to put it on this way, right? It's not going to line up, but if I, oh, look, see, that's the wrong word, so it's not going to line up at all. This one lines up that way, but if I was to try this way, it's not going to work, right? So that's the best way to figure out if you've got the right one. Make sure. It's very hard to put the wrong one on, but it can happen. Okay, so there's that one. Now let's do good luck, since I tried to do it last time. And we'll pull that off, pull this off, and then attach it to the label, whoops, and then peel it off, and then one more, and we're done with this step. And we can go ahead and move on to our card. All right, so peel that off, and see, like, this is where I can tell whether it's upside down or not, right? Because it wouldn't match up. So this is the way it goes. We're gonna go ahead and attach that down, stick that in my stamp case, and then this and all of these little bits are just trash, so I can throw all of that out. All right, now we're ready to go. So, like I said, I'm gonna copy, for the most part, this card right here. So my first step is to cut my crumb cake card base. So I have an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of crumb cake cardstock. So I'm gonna take out my Stampin' trimmer. I'm going to put this on the longer side, the 11-inch side, and I'm going to cut at 5.5. Okay, this is now 2 card bases, but I only need 1. And if I want to score it so it folds nicely, I can go ahead to 4.25. You want to make sure you use your light gray, not your dark gray, otherwise you're going to cut. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and that scores my card base as well. Okay, so now, while I have this other piece, actually, this would be another card base perfectly, but I need a layer for my embossing. And so I'm going to cut this at 4 by 5.25. So it's just 1/4 inch smaller than the front of the card. Okay, so you can see now I have this, okay? But we want to emboss that. So I'm gonna grab the time worn embossing folder. You stick that inside, okay? Let me grab my Stampin' Cut and Emboss, and hopefully I can get it in a position where you guys can see it. This is the big guy because the mini cannot handle these big 6x6 embossing folders. So I'm gonna grab my base plate, and this is a 3D embossing folder, so I will just need the base plate and then the number 4 plate. And so I'll stick that into my machine, put the base plate on top, roll this through. Oh, helps if you open it all the way. And then roll it through. And it slides through nice and easily. Okay. And then we have this beautifully embossed piece of paper. So let me get this out of the way. Alright, and then I can probably show it to you a little bit better. So there you can see it, hopefully. Now, what I want to do to make it a little more distressed looking is I'm going to take my Whisper white ink. This is an old school one. It's got craft written on it because we used to have craft inks and classic inks. We now just have the classic, but we still do have Whisper white ink. It comes in the case that looks like these. It's uninked though, and you would need to ink it yourself. So it comes with the refill. Just make sure you don't refill the whole thing with that on that one pad. So the refill will do more than one inking. So you'll, ink it up until it's nice and inky, and then go ahead and save that refill for the next time it kind of dries out. So now I'm going to take this craft ink, this white ink, and I'm going to just kind of drag it along my cardstock. I kind of got a little bit of a blob there, but we can cover that. So see, it's just going to add a little bit more depth to that. And it will allow us to kind of see those little words and whatnot a little bit better. So I smeared it a little bit more than I wanted to, but we will fix that later. We can probably cover that with our cork. So next up, I'm going to take a piece of cork. So this comes 12 by 12. And it's very thin, which is good because that means you can punch it and you can die cut it and do all the things to it. It's kind of got a little bit of a soft texture to it. And then I'm grabbing the rectangle stitched framelits. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those. Before I cut this down, I'm going to see what size I want this cut out to be. I think I'm going to want it to be this way. So that looks about like the size of the middle part. And I'm going to just measure, that looks like maybe 3/4 of an inch from the outside. So maybe we will cut this at, I don't know, let's say 3.5 by 4 3/4 maybe. So that's what I'm going to cut the piece to, 3.5 by 4 3/4. And then I can die cut it with that shape. So 3.5. And this may not be exact, but it's going to work. So I'm going to cut that 3.5 by 4 3/4. This cork, you guys, is so pretty. It's probably not showing up in the camera, but it almost looks like it's got metallic in it. It doesn't really. It's like, I don't know, it's just got a shiny, see that? It's got like a shiny component to it too, which is really neat. Okay, so now I'm gonna need my big guy again because I need enough space. This time we're gonna use plate number 1, which is the base plate. We are gonna need plate number 2, which is the thin die adapter. Then we're going to put one of our cutting mats. We'll put our cork paper. Okay, and then I'm going to grab that stitched shape and I'm going to center that right in the middle. And that looks good. Then I'm going to put this one on top. I don't want these little pieces here because it will indent. So I'm going to take those off. Okay, and then we'll put this on top. Let me slide that out a little bit. Making sure that everything stays in line. Okay. And then I'm going to roll this through too. Okay. Like that. All right. So the stitch shapes are really cool. The stitched rectangles are really cool actually because they do stitching on both sides. You do want to be careful because there's stitching on both sides that you need to kind of carefully tear it. Okay. So you don't actually rip the paper. Like I said, this cork paper is a little bit thin. So you want to be careful. I'm going to move this out of the way again. I think we're done with that now because I already pre-cut the other thing we need to die cut. So I'm going to pop this out carefully. This we don't use on this card, but I'm going to totally save that because that will work for something else. So now you can see this is kind of coming together. So that's going to go like this, right? Okay. So that's that part. Now we wanted to do a little bit of color on here. So I'm taking the Fluid 100 paper. That's our watercolor paper, in case you didn't know. It comes with, let's see, 10 sheets that are 5 by 7. So I would normally, if I was doing this normally, I should have probably done it this way since I was die cutting everything else. I would do the watercolor wash right on the paper, but I actually die cut the pieces first. So, it's going to make it a little bit more challenging for me to watercolor wash them because they're going to want to move, but we'll make it work. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll start with Calypso Coral. So I'm grabbing my Calypso Coral ink. I'm going to squeeze the cover a little bit. If you don't like to do this, you can actually put a little bit of Calypso Coral ink, like the re-inker, right on your block and use this as your palette, or you could use a plastic case or plastic paper or anything like that. I'm just going to do it right inside the cover of my ink pad. I'm wondering if I have already, oh, that's Winka Stella. I could use Winka Stella, but, oh, here we go. So I already have a, one of my water painters. You get 3 in a pack. I already have one that has water in it, which is good because I forgot to do that before we started. Whoops. I just spread water everywhere. But basically, we're going to go ahead, make sure it's clean, which I know this one is because I've never used it. I still have a ton of the old aqua painters, so I tend to use those. And then I'm going to pick up some of this ink from my ink pad. I usually try to blot it off a little bit, and then we're going to just run it over the image. This is super watery, which I don't love, but it's okay. We'll make it work. So we're gonna just color the whole thing with the coral. Okay. So the thing with this is I'm probably gonna want to change my grid paper now, but like I said, we'll make this work. It would be so much easier, as I said at the beginning, just to do a full watercolor wash on the paper first and then die cut, because you can get nice thick color that way. Whoops. So I do want this to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to go over it again, especially this little bulb. And we're just going to add some more color to that. So again, this probably wouldn't be a card you'd want to make for 1,000,000 people. This would be a card for those special people in your life, the card-worthy people, right? All right, so that looks good enough for right now. I'm going to set that aside. Now we're going to switch colors. So I'm going to just run this out, get a little bit of water running through that, see how that starts to run clear again. So now I can switch colors. And this time we're going to do Bumblebee. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to squeeze the cover a little bit to get the yellow going here. Okay, then we'll grab this, which is yellow. Like, this dries pretty quickly too, which is good. So it shouldn't pick up color, but I'm going to move slightly to the side. And we're going to watercolor wash this too. So I got a little bit less water this time, which I think is good. Okay. And we're going to go right to the paper with this one. Let's slide this down a little bit. Okay. This is actually kind of fun. If you like to color, you'll probably like this too. Again, it's probably a lot easier to do the full watercolor wash all over the paper first. But I wanted to kind of cut down the amount of die cutting and stuff I needed to do for the video. But now that I've done this, I'm like, oh, this would have been I should have done the other parts first, because those were, you didn't need to see those as much as you probably would have needed to see this step. But we're making it work, right? So I'm going to add just a little bit more. I want these to be kind of dark. So I'm going back right into the really dark part of my ink and going right to the top of those. And I'm kind of not being consistent with where the darks and the lights are. I kind of like that it would be more like the watercolor wash if we had some spots that were dark and some that were light. So I'm just kind of doing that. There we go. Look how cool that looks. Okay, I think I might have to fix my coral one when we're done. I wanted it a little bit darker anyway. All right, so we're going to run this out again, get it nice and clean, and we've got one more to do. So I'll do it over here. This one we're using Soft Succulent. Again, if you don't like your ink pads to be all inky, then you can totally do this with ink refill and just like some sort of plastic case or your acrylic block or something like that as your palette. Or you could use an actual palette if you had those. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab the Soft Succulent. This one I'm going to try and make it a little bit lighter, I think. So I'm going to add a little more water because that's going to make it lighter. And then we'll add the color to this one. Okay. It's kind of relaxing, you guys. The good thing about this is because it's just water and we're using watercolor paper, I can use as much water as I want and it's still going to dry pretty quickly. So it's going to allow for us to keep assembling our card without having to wait an hour for it to all dry. Okay. Move this up a little bit. Just keep adding color. Okay. Alright. Let's add a little bit of darkness here and there. Oops. I don't want it to be fully even in color. So I'm just kind of adding some of that in. There you go. See, that looks kind of cool. All right, I am going to go back and just fix my coral one because I want it a little bit darker. It looks really good though. I like it. Whoops. I want to do a little less water for this one. And I'm going to add a little bit more color so it's nice and bold. Okay. Like so. These are really pretty. Okay. There we go. And I've got not enough water now. There we go. Added a little more water in there so it, when it starts to get like stuck on your paper and it's not gliding smoothly, you need to add a little bit more water. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of try and make it a little bit uneven. Add darkness in some spots and leave the rest a little bit lighter. Okay, there we go. So I'll set that aside for a minute. I'm going to put this away. I'm going to wipe it off on my pants because I got ink all over the sides. I'm going to clean out this brush because you don't want to leave it all full of ink. So I'm just going to run that clear. Okay, put the cover back on. And then that's ready to use again. Okay, I am going to kind of move this stuff. And let's just put, I'm going to move this because I do have a little coupon for you if you decide you want to order within the next week or so. And I'm just going to put another grid sheet over this because I don't want it to soak through my card. Rather than removing it, I'm just going to plop that on top. we'll grab some more washi tape just to hold it still for me. Give me 1 second. Told you we're doing kind of start to finish today. All right, and then we will continue with our assembly. Okay, so now I'm going to take this piece. Oh, here, I'll put this back. So if you order with me and you use this host code 9WC7TWFJ, I'll put it in the description of the video as well. You'll get a free embellishment from me at the end of the month with your thank you card. So, all right, so now this Whisper White that we smeared on here is dry. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my card. I am using a little bit more adhesive because it's textured. It will tend to want to fall off, okay? So we're going to go ahead and attach that down. And then I'm going to put the cork on with some dimensionals. So I'm going to grab my dimensionals, and I want it to be pretty consistent. I don't want it to kind of sag where there isn't dimensionals. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up with dimensionals. Normally I wouldn't do that. I'd probably just put one in each corner, but I don't want it to sag. I want it to stay really consistent across the whole frame. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm going to take these off. What's cool with this cork paper too, like you could actually use it as craft paper because you can see on the back here, it just looks like regular craft paper. Taking all of these off. Okay, now I'm going to take my card and stick this right in the middle. Okay. Like that. Okay. Now it's a matter of putting on our little die cuts here. So I think I'm going to actually, they didn't do this, but I think I'm going to stick this one underneath a little bit. Whoops, how did I get coral on there? I must have put the wet one on top. I'll just cover it like this. So you can see we covered that little mishap we had. I'm going to put that one and this one. Oh, I did it again. I must have coral on my... Oh, goodness. You guys. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my lovely sand eraser. See if I can get some of that color lifted, and then maybe I might need to add a little more. Oops, sorry. Oh, my goodness. Hot mess express today. So I'm going to just... Yeah, I'm going to sand some of that off. Where there's a will, there's a way, you guys. It's not going to be perfect, but it's fine. And you know what? I can actually probably readjust and put my sentiment there. So now I'm just going to grab that watercolor again. We'll pick some of this color up, and I'm going to get this all dirty all over again. But we're going to go ahead and just recolor that, so that it doesn't actually show. So I may have to kind of add some more color elsewhere too, so that it doesn't look uneven. It's not quite the light muted look that I was going for, but it will work. Whoops, I didn't clean this out. Let's go ahead and clean that out. All right, so that's that. Hopefully, let me wipe my hands on my pants again so I don't get any more of this coral anywhere. I think it's because that's still wet. It was a lot of ink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully move this so I don't get any more ink anywhere. That one I can cover. I'm going to tape this down underneath. So I'm just going to use, I'm going to tape it over here because I don't want to get it on my grid paper in the middle, because then, stop. It will stick like this, and we don't want that. But I'm going to just fold these over. You could have used the self-adhesive sticks, or sheets rather, sticks. I don't know where I got that from. We have self-adhesive paper that I could have die cut this. I could have attached it to the watercolor paper and then die cut, but I didn't think of that in advance. So we're going to just do this. I could also use mini glue dots, but we're going to improvise. See, you guys, because I'm doing this start to finish, you're seeing all of my flubs in advance, right? All right, so let's just fold over these little tape pieces. Definitely easier ways to do this, but you know, I'm being lazy. And I already die cut this and colored them, so I don't want to start over. We'll make it work. All right, so now this has enough adhesive on it that I can stick this. I'm going to stick this part under here. Those are going to hang out the bottom, but I can trim those. So I'm just going to stick that down, and I'm going to let this come up and over the top of the cork. So we'll tape those down. Tape that down. Okay. All right, so now we can do this one. This one I'm going to actually have it go above. So I'm going to put a little bit of tape up here and on the bottom. And then I might put a little mini dimensional on these two flowers. So little tape up here where it overlaps, little tape over here, and a little bit of tape down here. Oops, and I did that right in the middle, which means it's probably going to be sticky. All right, this is super, I'm using Seal Plus too, so it's very sticky, which is why I'm having issues with that. Then I'm going to grab my mini dimensionals. I think those will be the perfect size for these other little flowers. We'll peel the backings off of that. Okay, and then we're going to stick this right about there. Looks good. Actually, that's a little low. Hold on. Let's go up a little bit higher. Like that. That looks good. There. Okay. This part still looks a little bit of a mess, but we're going to fix that. All right, so now we have this piece, and we're going to put that one kind of, I think, like right on the edge here. Okay, so I'm going to put adhesive here, 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 and then a mini glue dot under, or a dimensional under here. So let me just grab one of those so I know which side I'm doing that. And we'll put adhesive on these. Okay. Fold that over. Peel the backing off on that. And let's get that attached. Okay. Oops. Kind of right on the edge there. Like that. Okay. I think I need a little bit down here too. Come on. This is why you don't want to tape right on your thing, because it makes it stick to the project. I'm just folding that over. Could have used a glue dot there. That's fine. All right, so now I'm going to try and cover this where we had the little mishap. So I'm going to do my sentiment over that. And I'm going to grab the stamp set. And I'm going to do thank you, because I always need thank yous. And I need a little block. And we'll do this in, let's do this in brown. I'm going to use Early Espresso. Okay, and we'll use, I have some white right here. I'm going to fussy cut it so it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to use this little piece here. I'm going to stamp that. We'll get this out of the way, let that dry for about 30 seconds, just to make sure we don't have any issues. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and trim these down, making sure that I don't trim my cork. There we go. Get those out of there so they don't show. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut this. I'm going to be a little finicky, although I might need to do, now that I think about it, because I need it bigger. I was going to fussy cut it, but now that I think about it, I need that to cover my little mishap. So I think I might use one of the, where's my dies? One of the labels in the dies. So remember we had the two different label size? I think thank you will fit in here, right? And I think, yeah, so that will be big enough for me to cover up. So let me grab my mini die cutting machine. We're going to use just the base plate, a cutting mat, some white And when you die cut, you want to make sure those rimmed edges are facing down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Run this through my little mini machine. Love this thing. Now I have a cute little label that's a little bit more substance so that I can cover my goof. Okay, so let's put this away so I don't lose it. And then we'll go ahead and grab the early espresso again, and we'll stamp this again. Okay, and I'm gonna put thank you right in there. Perfect. I think we can probably pop that up too. And I'm gonna put it right here, so then I'm covering that little goof, right? So there we go. Actually, I'm gonna use regular adhesive, I think. So we'll just run that right across the whole thing. And we'll put that down like that. And there we have it. See, it's getting stuck there, so I'm gonna actually use this to attach there so it doesn't. Don't want it to be saggy. Here we go. And there you have the finished card. You can still see that fun little shimmer in the cork. Actually, you know what we can do to add some more shimmer just because I love it? Let's go ahead and grab my, where is it? I just had it a second ago. Here it is. My Winka Stella. Let's add a little bit of glitz to the flowers. Because, well, we can. Look how much fun that adds to this card. Just doing the flower tops. And there you have it. I love it. Super pretty. Fun. It's a little bit more involved than you would do for just anybody, but it really showcases this suite and just makes me happy. So thank you so much for joining me for this start to finish card, right? Copying from the catalog. So you can see here, we copied that right from the catalog. And I didn't have to think, right? All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to check out this new catalog. It's amazing. If you need a copy and you don't already have a demonstrator you work with, go ahead and give me a shout. I'd be happy to send one out to you. And of course, if you decide you want to order, go ahead and visit me at jenpitta.stampinup.net and use host code 9WC7TWFJ at checkout before August 12th, and I will send you a free embellishment from the new catalog with your thank you card at the end of the month. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye!